next speaker, Safir Anand. He's a very prominent lawyer, specializes in the IP. Safir, thanks for joining in. For those who don't know you that well, could you just share a few lines about yourself before I get into my first question?
I'm an intellectual property lawyer. I run the largest IP firm in India called Anand & Anand. I am a brand strategist to several companies. I sit on the boards of several committees, and I'm also known as an avid investor. So frequently my views on the economy and on the impact of things are aired by prominent business channels, etc.
So getting straight into our questions, the coronavirus has definitely, halted the entire judicial process. I think courts are closed and, important judicial matters are pending or they're suspended as of now. What do you think is the task or the ask that the Indian judiciary system needs to get into in terms of, is there a possibility of something going online? What are the trends that you see coming up in the next few months?
The good part is that it's not as bleak as it sounds. Online filings have already started a long time back, at least some weeks back. The court has also notified that you can do online filings, and there is a good possibility that if the shutdown prolongs, then video conferencing facilities will be introduced, and perhaps you will be arguing your cases over video conferencing. Second part is that, law is a very dynamic subject. So a lot of lawyers for the last several days are busy in interpreting clauses to do with force majeure and frustration of contracts and other things. And therefore, the entire streamlining keeps changing from one thing to the other. For example, just before this call, we had a committee call of ASSOCHAM where we were deliberating the amendments to the IT Act and whether where intermediary liabilities are being defined. And the government is right now trying to maximize the speed at which that is done because of digital.
So the other thing that we're also seeing that, there's a lot of anxiety, amongst employees, employers, job seekers who have recently got jobs, workers, laborers. Everyone is in a flux today, So I'm sure there are a lot of requests coming to you from your existing clients and new ones as well. So I'm sure you're a busy man today. So how are you handling these requests?
The good part about life is that if you are really in the business of wanting to get somewhere, you have to be a student every day of your life. And therefore, it doesn't matter how much of experience you may have as a lawyer. What matters is your experience relevant to the demand of what is happening today? When you look at, for example, the issue of branding, if brands are going to find it difficult with their budgets being strained, they will also reward innovation, and that innovation will be across the whole spectrum of things, right from legal to practical solutions. A lot of people may like to litigate because there's counterfeiting. A lot of people may like to avoid litigation because of other issues of other priorities. So I think the ability of a person to become multifaceted in terms of his thought process and solution oriented, and to provide a return on a thought process. Just as we have return on investment, there has to be a return on thought process. And that will be able to guide you ahead in respect of the kind of demand that you have from the market.
There's a very popular topic on every news channel is that who will develop the vaccine and what is going to be the IP around it, or who's going to hold the IP? Is it Germany? Is it China trying to do something? Is the US? Is India opening the gates to everyone? So technically, how can you lock or unlock the value of an IP on this vaccine?
First part is not going to be the vaccine. That still may happen towards the end of the year or early next year, assuming that also that the US FDA approvals fall in place. The first part is going to be the tests. So you already know there's a company like Abbott Laboratories, etc., are coming up with tests, and people are trying to come out with diagnostic kits that are able to do detections faster. Yes. And to some extent, if the detection happens quicker, then the probability that you will be able to have somewhat of a normal life will also resume, which will itself be a big boon. The second part of it will be the development of antibodies, and once antibodies you would become relatively more immune to the virus attack, and therefore if you are more immune, you will minimize the chances of catching it. And the third would be a preventive stage where a vaccine would be created, and already more than 10 or 12 companies are filed. Now, the patents, all the inventions that are coming in typically could be subject matter of patents by those respective companies, and therefore subject matter of private ownership. They may decide for social reasons in order to not have a premium pricing and to give it to the society either at a low cost or at a subsidized cost. And that's essentially a call that each company will take. I don't think right now companies who create the vaccine will try and go ahead with very high pricing, because they would, humanity will play a big card here.
So there are two questions I'm picking up from the Q&A tab that has come. One has come from Varun Agarwal and one is from Vaibhav Jain. I'm going to read Varun's question. He's a law student, has keen interest in IP, especially trademarks. He wants to know how much time will it take to recreate jobs in the IP field after this crisis. The other question from Weber, looking at the outlook with regards to the startup ecosystem post-COVID-19. He's currently working on a startup. He wanted to launch it by September 2020 this year. He's a little concerned how investors would react or look at it at this stage.
As far as the career point of somebody wanting to get into legal or intellectual property is concerned, the career opportunity will start in the matter of the next few minutes. I don't even think you'll have to wait for a very long period of time. There is a problem. There is a problem which has a time. The time is uncertain, whether it is 6 to 10 months or even 1 year or 1.5 years. But history suggests that whenever these problems happen, these problems tide over, because whenever there is adversity, there is opportunity. And this is how the organized sector keeps getting bigger and better. Opportunities will come based upon your skills. If you happen to possess those necessary skills based upon the companies that are doing well or likely to do well, then you will do well. Therefore, you should try and read maximum, try and read on multiple subjects so that you have a greater depth of personality rather than being specific around one agenda. And of course, if you find that one industry does well, then you can develop specialization. As far as the legal opportunity of work is concerned, like no way the organized sector is not going to get stronger. I mean, this is not me, this is Adam Smith, and this is called Wealth of Nations. And the fact that 90% of the wealth belongs to 10% hasn't changed now for the last 90 years. So those guys will come and create demand for a lot of things, and it's for us to get attuned to that.
So you think a lot of money is going to come in? That's your point of view. That's what you're saying, Safir. Is that right?
Well, I don't even have to say it. It's already there. Do you know the amount of currency that has been printed around the world? Today, there was a hue and cry over social media and over TV channels that some Chinese company had bought 1% of HDFC Limited.
Yes.
So what? You will have so many other companies coming and buying out, and they'll be great. So even for a startup, if your product or service is good, you will find the going.
I think that's brilliant. Safir, you've been very candid and honest with your answers as always, and I really appreciate it. But another question for you, since you're an IP specialist, somewhere we see across the globe or within India or within our states, within our cities, there is no solid way to measure and monitor intellectual property. Yet there are some amazing success stories, some great companies in the hinterland, in upcountry that have some great products, yet they are not internationalized at the way that they can. Can intellectual property really give these small success stories a bigger landscape, a bigger canvas?
According to me, it is the only tool that which can sort of remove the barriers that a company has. Because to create intellectual property, you don't need capital. You need a thought process. You need a team of people who are thinking. You need intellectual property only to protect. The cost of protection is not as high as, for example, the cost of creating a factory and to buy inventory and to create distribution network. Then today's world is very different from the world of maybe a decade back. And today's world is about collaborations. Like an ITC tying up the Domino's and a Marico tying up with somebody else and all that. So I think that the new IPs will also be created by collaborations.
Thank you so much, Safir. You were very helpful in this session, and I'm sure you answered a lot of concerns that a lot of youngsters had. What I loved about your talk is that it had a lot of positivity in it, and it wasn't the feeling was positive. You've given real facts around it as well. So thank you very much.